The Mega Lion, 12th of February 2023, the Taiwan-China factor puts the Indo-Pacific region on edge due to China's threat. China is combining its economic, diplomatic, military, and technological strength as it pursues a sphere of influence in the Indo-Pacific and wants to become the world's most influential country, according to a Biden administration study on Indo-Pacific strategy published last year. I hope I'm wrong, but a U.S. Air Force general has expressed concern about possible conflict with China. My instinct is I'll fight in 2025. In his scary document, Mike Minihan described circumstances that may allow China's President Xi Jinping to seize the long-desired island nation. At the same time, the US and Taiwan are preoccupied with the 2024 presidential elections. Also, Beijing is keenly monitoring the outcome of Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine based on justifications similar to China's assertions regarding Taiwan. Taiwan is the starting point for the US-China strategic conflict that spans the Indo-Pacific region, despite the Pentagon's denial of the prediction. Washington does not recognize Taipei as an independent country due to its commitment to the One China policy and openly opposes its bid for independence. But, President Joe Biden has pledged that if there is an unprecedented attack, the U.S. will defend Taiwan with its soldiers. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi led a congressional delegation to Taiwan last year, including Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, an American of Indian descent. China replied by conducting military drills around the island and launching missiles to show off its potential to invade. If Speaker Kevin McCarthy makes a similar trip this year, there might be another fight. The last time the US and China engaged in direct combat was during the Korean War in the 1950s when the US sent out 6.8 million troops and lost 54,200 of them in a conflict that resulted in a standoff and the split of the peninsula into two countries. After defeats in Vietnam and Afghanistan and losing a pointless war in Iraq, the question today is whether the US has the stomach for yet another overseas military operation, this time involving China. Taiwan produces about 65% of semiconductor chips and more than 90% of the more cultivated varieties. Washington considers what might happen to its economy and defense if China invades the island. This is one of the motivations behind the $52 billion Biden program to encourage domestic semiconductor chip production. In the case of the US and China, mutually assured destruction, or MAD, a notion in the context of nuclear weapons, applies to their economy with terrible repercussions for their communities due to China's $1 trillion in American debts and its dependence on US markets. China's arc of aggression, which passes through the Indo-Pacific and turns into the Himalayas for the border battle with India, includes Taiwan as just one element. The web views Beijing's regional strategy as a move toward world dominance. China is combining its economic, diplomatic, military, and technological strength as it pursues a sphere of influence in the Indo-Pacific and wants to become the world's most influential country, according to a Biden administration study on Indo-Pacific strategy published last year. China is embroiled in maritime disputes with Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia as part of its effort to impose its dominance over the region. In these issues, the U.S. has made it plain that it supports the right to free navigation and territorial integrity, and occasionally, as late as last November, it has occasionally dispatched U.S. Navy ships through disputed areas, drawing criticism from Beijing. Australia, South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, and Thailand are parties to defense agreements with the U.S., and Manila this month agreed to expand cooperation by granting access to new sites. The Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, SEATO, a 1950s security agreement that comprised Pakistan, Britain, and France, failed and self-destructed in the 1970s. It is improbable that it will be revived with a new cast of participants. For the time being, it is almost impossible to bind them into a military agreement. To offset China's influence, the U.S. has established the Quad with three of the strongest countries in the region, India, Japan, and Australia. In any attempt to turn this into a security arrangement, India is the weakest link because of its unwillingness to irritate China and its ideological reasons for maintaining its pretensive non-alignment and pursuit of a policy of strategic independence. The U.S. seeks to include partners from beyond the region in its vision of security arrangements for the area that go beyond military defense and present China with various challenges. We will foster security ties between our allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific region and beyond, including by finding new opportunities to link our defense industrial bases, integrating our defense supply chains, and co-producing key technologies that will shore up our collective military advantages, the country's Indo-Pacific strategy document stated. Beijing has been outraged by the AUKUS security deal, which Washington enlisted Britain to help Australia join in 2021. In its Indo-Pacific policy document, the U.S. pledged to bring together our Indo-Pacific and European partners in creative ways, including through the AUKUS cooperation to further this goal. The Pentagon reports that the third Indo-Pacific strategic dialogue between U.S. and French defense officials occurred this month and covered the security environment in the Indo-Pacific, multilateral approaches to regional security concerns, and collaboration in the region. China has a significant edge in the area since it is physically close to the neighboring nations, has a strong military, and is intertwined with them economically. This limits how far the ASEAN may, for instance, support Taiwan or defy China in other situations. China has stepped up its diplomatic efforts with smaller but highly crucial islands in the Indo-Pacific, such as the Solomon Islands, Kiribati, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, and Timor-Leste, as part of a counteroffensive. Beijing has been pursuing military or police links with those nations that may provide it ultimate control, establishing choke points and launching pads for action, without any pretense of advancing human rights or democracy. A security pact between China and the Solomon Islands gives Beijing the right to provide Chinese ships with access to logistical facilities and the ability to send troops and police to the nation to uphold the law. Beijing has spoken with senior police officials from some of the other Pacific islands to press for similar agreements with them. Even though it might come back to harm Beijing, China's more serious countermeasure is to support North Korea as a nuclear proxy. North Korea plays a similar role for Beijing against Washington, developing missile capability to target the US, much like Pakistan poses a nuclear threat to India without China explicitly holding it out. It all boils down to how much power China has over the unsteady Kim Jong-un dictatorship, which developed over many generations. The threat to China and the rest of the world comes from Pyongyang disregarding Beijing, as it appeared to do when former President Donald Trump made overtures to Kim.